Those 7 words ended 19 years of my life in 30 seconds. I stood there in the maintenance shop, grease still under my fingernails from fixing the conveyor belt that morning. The new owner, James Rothwell, didn't even look up from his clipboard. Just kept scribbling numbers like he was crossing items off a grocery list. "Sir, I think there's been a mistake," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "No mistake." He finally looked at me, cold blue eyes and a face that had never seen a day of real work. "I'm streamlining operations. Your position is redundant." Redundant, after 19 years of keeping this place running. My name is Marcus Chen, and I've been the head maintenance technician at Riverside Manufacturing since I was 22 years old. I know every pipe, every wire, every bolt in this building. I've crawled through spaces that would give other men nightmares. Fixed machines that everyone else said were beyond repair. I've missed Christmas dinners to keep the production line running. Worked through weekends when the hydraulic press started acting up. Hell, I even slept in the shop during that ice storm 3 winters ago when the heating system failed. The workers called me Magic Marcus because I could make any machine sing again. But apparently, magic doesn't matter when new ownership wants to cut costs. "What about the maintenance contracts?" I asked. "The warranty agreements? The safety protocols?" Rothwell waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly. "We're outsourcing all that. More efficient." More efficient. That's what rich men say when they want to squeeze every penny out of something they don't understand. "You've got 1 hour," he said, turning his back on me. 1 hour to pack up 19 years of my life. I started pulling my tools from the pegboard. Each one had a story. The torque wrench I'd used to rebuild the main assembly line motor. The digital multimeter that helped me track down that electrical ghost that had plagued the building for months. The worn leather tool belt my dad gave me when I first started here. My hands were shaking. The other workers started filtering in as word spread. Tommy from shipping, Maria from quality control, old Pete who ran the loading dock. "This is bullshit, Marcus," Tommy said. His face was red with anger. "You saved this place more times than we can count." "Remember when the main transformer blew?" Maria added. "You had us back online in 6 hours. Companies said it would take 3 days minimum." I remembered. I'd worked straight through, mapping circuits by flashlight, jury-rigging connections that shouldn't have worked but did. My wife, Rebecca, had called twice, worried sick, but I couldn't leave. 200 people depended on this place for their paychecks. Now those same 200 people watched me pack my tools like a condemned man gathering his belongings. "It's not right," Pete muttered. He'd been here almost as long as I had. "That fancy suit doesn't know what he's doing." I wanted to agree, wanted to rage against the injustice of it all, but I just kept packing. What else could I do? Rothwell appeared in the doorway as I was loading my toolbox into my truck. "I'll need your keys and access cards." I handed them over without a word. 19 years of trust, reduced to a handful of metal and plastic. "And Marcus?" He actually smiled. "Don't take it personally, it's just business." Just business. Like my life's work was some line item on a spreadsheet. I drove home in a daze. Rebecca was in the kitchen when I walked in, still wearing my work clothes at 2 in the afternoon. She took one look at my face and knew. "Oh, honey," she said, wrapping her arms around me. I told her everything. About Rothwell's cold dismissal, about the outsourcing plan, about how they were throwing away decades of institutional knowledge to save a few dollars. "You'll find something better," she said. But we both knew the truth. At 41, with skills specific to one industry, starting over wouldn't be easy. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the things that could go wrong at the plant. The quirks and warning signs that only I knew. The makeshift fixes that needed regular attention. The equipment that was running on borrowed time. But it wasn't my problem anymore. 3 days later, my phone rang at 6 in the morning. "Marcus, it's Tommy. You need to turn on the news." I fumbled for the remote, my heart already racing. The local news was showing aerial footage of Riverside Manufacturing. Smoke was pouring from the main building. Fire trucks surrounded the complex like antibodies fighting an infection. "What happened?" I asked, though part of me already knew. "Electrical fire in the main panel," Tommy said. His voice was tight with fear. "Started around midnight. The whole production floor is gutted." I closed my eyes. I'd been warning management about that panel for 2 years. The connections were corroded. The breakers were old and unreliable. I'd submitted 3 different proposals to upgrade the system. Each one was rejected as non-essential. Anyone hurt? I asked. Night security guard got out okay. But Marcus, they're saying it could have been prevented. There's going to be an investigation. An investigation. That meant insurance claims, lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, the kind of attention that could destroy a company. Over the next week, the story unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. The fire marshal's report was damning. Outdated electrical systems, deferred maintenance, safety protocols that existed only on paper. The insurance company launched their own investigation. They wanted to know why critical maintenance had been ignored, why the electrical panel hadn't been upgraded despite repeated warnings. Rothwell tried to blame the previous management, said he'd inherited the problems and was working to fix them. But the paper trail told a different story. Every maintenance request I'd submitted was dated and documented. Every safety concern was logged in the system. The insurance investigators found them all. Mr. Rothwell, the lead investigator said during a recorded interview that somehow found its way to the local news. You terminated the head maintenance technician just days before this incident, a man with 19 years of experience and intimate knowledge of these systems. Can you explain that decision? Watching Rothwell squirm on camera should have felt good, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad for the workers who'd lost their jobs. Sad for a company that had once been something to be proud of. The insurance company denied the claim. Gross negligence, they called it. Willful disregard for safety protocols. Without insurance money, Rothwell couldn't rebuild. The company that had employed 200 people for over 40 years was finished. But the story wasn't over. A week after the insurance decision, I got a call from an unexpected source. David Morrison, the son of Riverside's original owner. He'd sold the company to Rothwell just 6 months earlier, but he'd been watching the aftermath with growing horror. Marcus, I need to see you, he said. Can you meet me at the old place? I found him standing in the parking lot, staring at the charred remains of the building where his father had started with nothing but a dream and a handful of loyal workers. I made a mistake, he said without preamble. I should never have sold to him. Dad would be rolling in his grave. David was nothing like Rothwell. He'd grown up in the business, understood what made it work, but he'd been tired, ready to retire, and Rothwell's offer had seemed like a clean exit. I want to make this right, he continued. I've been talking to some investors, people who understand manufacturing. We want to rebuild. My heart started beating faster. Rebuild what? Everything. New facility, modern equipment, but we need someone who knows what they're doing. Someone who understands that cutting corners is the most expensive mistake you can make. He turned to look at me directly. I want you to be our head of operations, not just maintenance. Full operational oversight. I stared at him. You're serious? Dead serious. You'll have full authority over all maintenance and safety protocols. No accountant or MBA is going to override your decisions. If you say something needs to be fixed, it gets fixed. It was everything I'd ever wanted. Respect, authority, the chance to build something right from the ground up. But there was more. What about the workers? I asked. Tommy, Maria, Pete, all the others? First priority, David said. Every single person who wants their job back gets it. At their old salary plus a raise to make up for the lost time. Over the next 6 months, I watched a dream become reality. We found a new location across town. Bigger, better designed, with state-of-the-art safety systems. I was involved in every decision, from the electrical specifications to the fire suppression systems. The old crew came back one by one. Tommy was my first hire. Then Maria. Pete decided to retire, but he came to the grand opening with tears in his eyes. Your dad would be proud, I told David as we watched the first products roll off our new assembly line. I hope so, he said. But I think he'd be more proud of what we learned. That the most expensive thing you can do is ignore the people who know what they're doing. As for Rothwell, the last I heard he was facing lawsuits from former employees and creditors. The man who thought he could cut costs by cutting expertise learned the hard way that some knowledge can't be replaced. 6 months after that, we got a contract that made us the largest employer in the county. Workers who'd been scattered to the winds came back. New hires joined the team. The parking lot that had once been empty except for security guards was full again. I kept my old tool belt, the one my dad gave me, but now it hangs in my office, next to my engineering degree and the safety award we won from the State Manufacturing Association. A reminder that real expertise isn't redundant. It's irreplaceable. 1 year after the fire, I was doing my evening walkthrough when I found a note taped to my office door. It was from Tommy's daughter, who'd just started working in quality control. "Thank you for bringing my dad's job back," it said, "and for showing me that doing things right is always worth it." I folded the note carefully and put it in my wallet, next to the picture of Rebecca and me at the new facility's grand opening. Some things are worth more than money: loyalty, expertise, the knowledge that comes from caring about your work and the people who depend on you. Rothwell never understood that. He saw workers as expenses to be minimized, problems to be solved with spreadsheets and cost-cutting measures. But I learned something too. Sometimes getting fired is the best thing that can happen to you. Not because it's easy or because everything works out perfectly, but because it forces you to remember who you really are. I'm Marcus Chen. I fix things that are broken. I keep machines running and people working. I build things that last, and no accountant with a clipboard can make that redundant. The new facility runs like a Swiss watch. Every system monitored, every component maintained, every safety protocol followed to the letter. We haven't had a single serious breakdown in 18 months. Yesterday, a consultant from a big corporation came by. He wanted to know if we'd consider outsourcing our maintenance to save money. I walked him to the door personally. "Thanks," I said, "but we're not interested in going backwards." He looked confused. "Backwards?" I pointed to the gleaming production floor where 250 people were building products that would last for decades. "We tried cutting corners once," I said. "It nearly destroyed everything we'd built. Some lessons you only need to learn once." He left shaking his head, probably thinking we were fools for leaving money on the table. But as I watched him drive away, I felt nothing but satisfaction. We'd learned the hard way that the most expensive mistake you can make is forgetting what really matters. Quality, expertise, loyalty, the knowledge that some things can't be replaced by outsourcing or cost-cutting or fancy spreadsheets. My phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca. "Dinner's ready, don't work too late." I smiled and started turning off the lights. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new machines to keep running. But tonight, I was going home to my wife, knowing that 250 families had steady work because we'd chosen to do things right. That's not redundant. That's everything.